Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the Farming Now podcast. Back from a little break, really. It's been a minute since we've done one, but heck, we've both been busy. But today we're going to talk about fake meat. The impact it has on farmers. What kind of impact the animals have on the land that makes people want to eat less of them. Things of that nature. So, we'll dive right into some fake beef. And also, we like to just go live. I don't know. To me, it makes me feel like that you all are just part of the conversation. No edits. So it might as well be a live stream. So I hope you guys appreciate that.
Yeah, no editing.
No editing at all.
I tried to convince him.
I'm just not ready for editing yet. So, do you think that fake meat is a legitimate threat to farming? Like to farmers?
No, I mean, it depends what kind of farmer you're talking about, because regardless, that protein's going to come from somewhere.
I guess probably the cattle farmer.
Yeah, that if you want to talk about, like if you broke it down to the specific farmer, yes, it is a definite risk to beef.
And all livestock.
Well, beef is the most, because their whole point is the impact on the atmosphere. And when you talk about like chickens and pigs and stuff like that, you can't really say
they don't have much of a footprint.
Yeah.
Like a carbon footprint or methane, whatever, any sort
a greenhouse
of
gas deal.
Exactly.
So, because I mean, when you talk about chickens they're a meat machine. That's what they have literally designed them.
They grow fast.
But fake beef, and that's the thing when we talk about fake meat, we're talking about fake beef. I mean, that's the only really fake meat that I know of.
That's true, but I don't know, kind of like tofu and stuff have a little bit to do with it also, because soybeans.
See, but tofu's been around for a long time. That's almost like a food in itself.
Definitely.
But tofu always gets thrown into it, I think, because that's what synthetic meat started out as, like with soy burgers and stuff. That was like the early form of it. But now they've taken it to a whole nother level. Like
I've had some good soy burgers too.
See, I would say that you can have. Let me put it this way: if you buy a fucking cheeseburger from McDonald's, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think you're gonna know what the fuck's in that meat, because like Taco Bell and all of it. I'm gonna tell you right now, if they put whatever in that meat, it's gonna probably be about the same.
And I'd probably still eat
low quality beef, but you're never. I mean, I'm not gonna say never, but you're not gonna you're gonna make a soy steak. You're not gonna make a fucking nice ass ribeye.
No. Hell
now,
no.
granted, where they're going with this, with the technology that they have,
they're making like cauliflower crust pizzas and stuff like that.
They might be able to, in like 20 years, make you a ribeye steak that you can't tell the difference. But then again, my thought process on that is like, why did we reinvent the fucking wheel? We went through all this trouble to make this synthetic steak, when all we had to do is take a cow out here and graze them on some grass, and you got a fucking ribeye.
I wonder if it's just like natural advancement of like
technology
of consciousness
for
some people.
See, that's the thing. That's like I told you earlier. I think that the environmental part of it has gave people the excuse they've been looking for to stop eating meat. Because there's always been that like conscious, like subconscious like thing where I like the like I care about animals and I'm killing animals, and the whole like factory farming thing part of it. But people are like, that's the only option I have. But when you throw in, it's killing the planet, then that takes it to a whole nother level. You know what I mean? Like
right.
It gives people like you said earlier. Would you say like it?
Like it gives them a higher.
Yeah.
Like they can look down on you. Like they got the one up immediately.
Yeah. What is that called? That's like.
I said it good earlier.
Or
something like that. Yeah, I don't know. But what's crazy to me about it was, like, to get fake meat, it's going to take a lot of soy products. And the soybeans are more detrimental to the planet than cattle are. Would
But
you
see,
agree?
it's not in a direct way. That's the thing. It's easy for people to write an article and throw a statistic in there and say the cattle do this. But for me to sit here and describe to an individual or a group of people why soybeans are bad, it's going to take a little while.
Yeah.
It's not just like, well, soybeans do this. Because soybeans and most things like that, and soybeans is just, it's like the go-to. I mean, they're getting this protein from somewhere. And for me to sit down and tell somebody, it takes a fucking podcast. It takes like hours to sit here and talk about why soybeans are detrimental.
That's true, and they're detrimental for us to consume too. I'll give you some. Let's see. So legumes and pea protein can cross react with gluten, and it causes inflammation. Soy, a top food allergen, soy can disrupt hormones and suppress thyroid function. So really, consuming soy isn't even a good thing in general. So I don't understand why they went there. Is that the only way to get protein out of plants?
No, but it's the most efficient way. It's because okay. Grain is a flowable commodity. It's almost like a liquid. When you think about grain, they go out and they harvest it on a combine, and it comes out the auger into the truck. And they drive that truck to the elevator, and they pour that into the elevator, and then they put that on a barge, and they take it somewhere. It's easy to handle. Whereas, so one of my big things for a while was, protein from alfalfa, which is also a legume. The protein, you get a really good stand of alfalfa, and it's right up there with soybeans as far as protein content.
How about detrimental? How about, soil erosion?
Now, no.
It doesn't cause that.
Because soybeans...
Because I was going to say alfalfa's a cover. A good cover.
Well, alfalfa is a perennial crop. It stays on for 4 to 5 years. It can stay on there longer than that. So it has a deep, thick root structure. If you go out in a field and you pull up a soybean plant, it's right there on the top.
Oh, okay. It's just disrupting that organic matter, that top 6.
Well, it doesn't hold the soil, and where that comes into play is the type of land that you raise them on. You can do that on them flat fucking farms out in Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. But around here, and that's why I talk about this a lot, is because it's what I see here. These farms were never meant to be row crop the way they are. Now, granted, corn is a lot different. Corn has a heavy root structure. You go out in a cornfield after it's been harvested, and it's hard to walk through.
Yeah, you roll your ankle.
But you go through it, you see a soybean field that's been harvested, and it's like this tall, and it's almost like a mat. There is no... It's barely even there. And the thing is, you can go back the next year when you go back to plant, and it's almost all gone. Now, corn, the next year after corn, even if you bush hog it, you almost have to break it sometimes. Especially when, for instance, when we're planting alfalfa. Because that root structure is still there. That fucking stobs are still holding on. Because it's got such a big, heavy...
It's tough.
Yeah.
But another thing with... a lot of it is... moral hierarchy. That's what I was kind of thinking earlier. But another, so 7.3 billion animals are killed every year by plant agriculture. That's way more cows than are killed every year. So what is it
But see,
the bigger the animal, more the value?
I think it's more. That's very abstract when you say that.
Okay.
Because it's not like we're going out here and rounding a group of animals up and taking them to the slaughterhouse and slaughtering them. That happens just accidentally.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it's all. I think it's.
I'm sure they're counting probably insects, rabbits, deer, snakes, birds, things of that nature.
And I understand that, but it's the images that people see. Those videos you see where they're at a slaughterhouse beating on a cow.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That really sticks with people. And it does. I mean, it sticks with me. When I see this shit, it makes me hurt.
And plus you put on top... Yeah, me too, for sure. Plus you put on top of that, the emissions, the footprint that they have.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. The emissions has gave people a good reason, a better reason, other than just moral reasons.
You want me to give you a really good stat to combat that? So, a farmer who has been keeping the same number of cattle on their land for several decades will not be increasing global warming significantly because the methane will be disappearing from the atmosphere almost as fast as it's being added, whereas using a tractor to spread artificial fertilizers will remain in the atmosphere and continue to have a warming effect more or less indefinitely. And repeated emissions of CO2 from annual use of diesel and applications of fertilizer will accumulate in the atmosphere, causing the global temperatures to increase. So if that's the stance, then running tractors to do row cropping is just as much damage. So
it's honestly, if you think about it, it's almost more, because that's a heavy hitter. When I first read that, I was like, "Boom, that changes the game." Because
you no longer have moral hierarchy besides with you just don't like killing animals, which I understand, but...
See, the thing about that is so I was pretty scared there for a while. When this all started happening, I started to get like, holy shit, like, how are we going to... As farmers, how are we going to justify this? Because if the cattle are really releasing this much methane and it's causing this many problems, then I don't know what to do. But when I read that in an article, I was like, that is the key. Because if methane compounded in the atmosphere year after year after year, then we'd have to stop. But if it is a cycle, and that's what you're saying, it is a cycle. The methane gets released into the atmosphere, and I'm pretty sure that it gets broke down in the atmosphere from radiation back into CO2. And then that CO2 gets captured back by the grass, and the cow eats the grass. So it's a cycle. So you're not adding or taking anything away. Once you have that established herd, and that's the reason I had you look up the buffalo. So if you can say, which we pulled up a stat here earlier before we started, there were 50 to 100 million bison in North America before Columbus.
Oof.
Right now, there are 93.8 million cattle in the United States. So if we go off the high end of that estimate with bison, which, we're speculating.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
But that tells me that right now we have not added anything to this system. Because those buffalo are basically cattle. They are large ruminants.
So what you're saying is we have room for them to
we
naturally exist in our...
We actually killed them and just replaced them with cattle. We killed all... I mean, there's probably not but a few million buffalo left in the United States.
I worked
right
on
now.
a buffalo farm for a minute. They're huge.
But there are... And that's another thing we got to think about. Buffalo are way bigger than cattle. So if there was 100 million buffalo, there was probably the equivalent of like 120
and
million
plus
cattle.
They're really tearing up how they run, and like how they'll just be in like a line. I bet they tear up the land. They're big, heavy animals.
Dude, that's a cool That's a cool story because that's where we get like Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace whiskey. A Buffalo Trace is a Buffalo Trail. They were all throughout Kentucky, all throughout the eastern United States. Most of the roads we drive on in Kentucky right now are ancient Buffalo Trails. Because they would fucking cut, dude. Because you get a herd of a few thousand buffalo moving.
Yeah. It's going to be just dirt, like almost if you closed in like a chicken in a small area.
Oh, they said there were places, Daniel Boone said there was places where they had wore through the land like 10 to 20 feet. Like they had created ditches.
Little tunnels.
And that, like,
the trenches.
All over the place. And you got to think of if a herd of buffalo, and that's why they were good roads. They were packed down, cleared. It was perfect. They were like, fuck it. Look, there's a perfect road.
That's neat. I didn't know that.
So, back to the buffalo and the cattle. That's why I wanted you to pull up the range statistic. The thing is that we only have so many acres of land to raise crops on. And right now, we have 770 million acres of rangeland that will never be able to be cropped. That's a lot of land that we're throwing away. That's a lot of protein. I would say, of that 93 million cattle, I would say 70% of them are probably on that rangeland out west. A good majority of them's out there, probably. And you're going to get rid of all of that usable land. And you're going to have to replace that with soybeans. And I don't think that we have the amount of... We do not have enough acreage in North America to do that. And America is number motherfucking one when it comes to farming and arable land. So if we can't do it, the rest of the world definitely can't do it.
So really, there's no ground to stand on why Bill Gates would why he would want the whole world to start eating fake meat and shit like that.
That part of it, I don't know. It's hard to because
it
I don't
doesn't
want to make
make
him
sense.
out as an evil person, like he's like Dr. Evil sitting in his big mansion.
Dude,
thinking
you
about
want me
maybe taking over the
you
world.
want me to burn him real quick?
Oh fuck!
All right. So Bill Gates, who lives in a 66,000 square foot mansion and
Man.
travels in a private jet that uses up to 486 gallons of fuel every hour, according to a 2019 academic study looking at extreme carbon emissions from jet-setting elites. Bill Gates extensively travels by jet, likely makes him one of the world's top carbon contributors. Bill Gates owns more farmland in the United States than any other private owner, having purchased a total of 242,000 acres.
Man.
The study looked at Gates' jet travel, but might have also considered Gates' emissions from his farmland, which include large tracts of corn and soybeans, which typically goes to feed animals, often on factory farms. So Bill Gates is promoting fake meat. That's the future of the world. That's how we'll feed the world. That's how we'll take care of our environment. But he's one of the biggest carbon emission. He
Has one of the largest carbon footprints of any individual.
yeah.
See, okay,
Why do we let people like this be fake as fuck?
One quick thing I wanted to point out: 66,000 square feet. That's over an acre.
Yeah,
That's an acre.
I just put that in there because he's a douchebag.
An acre! He has over an acre of house. We're talking about a house that's an acre. A full
Dude.
fucking acre.
But that's what I'm saying. Why do we let motherfuckers like this brainwash people when he's really just fake?
See, no, that's what I mean.
There's an agenda behind it because none of this adds up to me. None of it makes sense why Bill Gates would want all of the world to be eating fake meat.
See, this is the thing. As smart as he is, and as much power as he has, and many people as he has working towards this initiative, it is hard for me to say he hasn't read some of these statistics that we've got right here. Like the whole, the fact that the methane burns off. We got 77 million acres of rangeland, and there was just as many cattle here as there was buffalo. You gotta think somebody's like pulled that statistic up and been like, "Hey, Bill."
But you don't know what it is he's a smart man, and he probably thinks a majority is stupid. And him having all this land and promoting all this fake meat and being involved in all these factory farms and all these bioengineered protein additives and shit like that, I think that he almost wants to control. I think he wants even more power. Like he wants to control all the land, all the food.
See, okay, that we'll get off into a tangent on that in the sense that when you've got that kind of money don't really mean anything anymore. It's power. Because if you've got to that level in life at his age, he is driven by something. And it's the gain of power. Because there is no way you can tell me that he wants to make more money, because at this point it doesn't even matter. But you know where people as rich as him...
Yeah, it would be like making pebbles.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Just collecting pebbles.
The next thing that he can gain is power. But then again, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't want to sit here and say that Bill Gates is the most evil man in the world.
I do.
Because I don't know. I don't know what... I agree with you. It doesn't make sense.
He has some sort of backhand agenda that, if you put all these stats together, is fucking backwards and wrong.
But see, that kind of stuff scares me, because when we talk about people like that, that makes me feel like we really don't have any power.
We don't.
And that makes me feel like, well, fuck it. Like we had in that first podcast, fuck it. Like, what are we even doing here talking about it? Because it doesn't matter.
It really is. The more, like, We decided fake meat. I did not realize it would get this deep. Every time you research something, if you just research something that you've been thinking about, you'll uncover some fucking dirt that'll scare you.
Well,
there's a lot of shit we don't know.
And as much power as he has, you cannot make something work that's not going to work. And I have confidence with the things that I have learned that at the end of the day, it's a pipe dream. Like we said earlier, in our lifetime it is. I don't think this is going to happen in our lifetime because the numbers don't add up. We don't have the amount of acreage. We don't have the technology. We don't have... People are always skeptical of something new like that.
Oh, for sure. Even myself sometimes, I'm not into new stuff. Oh, I'll give you something else that was interesting. This is from NutriTruth.org. So, in an interview with MIT Technology Review, Bill Gates goes as far to say that people's behaviors should be changed to learn to like fake meat, and if that doesn't work, regulations could do the trick.
Yeah, that definitely is it's a little arrogant.
Because how come we let this little scrawny motherfucker be
that
like...
That makes me, because he's got billions and billions of dollars.
I just wish money didn't equal influence because he's a dumbass.
See, now that...
He's a pale, little, scrawny motherfucker who hopped on the internet when it got fad. That doesn't mean he's smarter than you or I.
Because he thinks... See, that quote makes me think, like, damn, he really thinks that he knows better.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. He's a scrawny little rat. He shouldn't be influential. I don't want people like that running our world, because he's the ones... People like him are the ones ruling the world, not the fucking president, not the Senate, not none of that bullshit. Because listen, politics are bought, politicians are bought, governments are bought.
Bought, like money.
Bought, yeah, like bought and sold.
See, now this is my thing. We live in a free market economy, and that one good thing, the good and the bad part about that is if it don't fucking make money, it don't fucking work.
No.
And that's the thing. If it costs more money to produce this fucking meat than it does to graze a cow on grass, then it just won't work. It just don't McDonald's ain't gonna lose fucking money. They just ain't gonna do it.
No.
That's not their business plan.
No.
So it don't matter what Bill Gates or the government says. If it just don't make fucking money, it don't fucking matter. But then again, if they figure out a way to make this meat real efficient and it's cheaper, they're gonna be like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care what you guys think. But at this point, I can't see that you could take a piece of meat, you could take soybeans and turn them into a ground hamburger more efficiently. Because this is one other thing. Until my sister told me this, and it was eye-opening. The only meat that we have now is ground beef. That's the Impossible Burger. Until they figure out how to grow a steak, when you kill a cow, you just don't take the ribeye out.
No.
You've got like 60 pounds of fucking. You probably got hundreds of pounds of ground beef behind that ribeye. So it's like that don't make no sense. If we're still gonna be eating ribeyes, we gotta do something with this ground beef.
You want to talk about something that don't make sense? So, you talk about the Impossible Burger. That's why I'm gonna bring this up. So 100%. The 100% vegan version of meat does not provide any advantage in fat content. The Impossible Burger does list 0 mg of cholesterol compared to 94 mg for the grain-fed beef patty. However, cholesterol is a required fat. It's a lipid. And our bodies and our brains must be bathed in cholesterol in order to function properly. Take away cholesterol in the brain seizes up. That's what we call dementia. So, it not having any cholesterol may seem like it's a good thing, but it's actually not, okay? So the Impossible Burger has 370 milligrams of sodium compared to just 89 mg of sodium for the grain-fed beef. Too much sodium in the diet can lead to serious and significant health problems that include high blood pressure, damaged vessel walls, increased risk of heart attack, stroke. Protein in real beef comes in at 28 grams for a 4-ounce serving, compared to 19 grams in the Impossible Burger. So more protein.
You're paying more for less.
And on top of that, it says the proteins. Well, you go up here, so one of the protein additives that they use, soy leg hemoglobin, is the primary ingredient in the Impossible Whopper. It's a bioengineered protein additive that adds meat-like taste and flavor and color. It's not technically considered safe to consume by the FDA because it's not considered a food or an ingredient. So that protein isn't even like good quality protein. So like it doesn't it don't match up.
See, this is my thing. One of my big things here lately is the arrogance of the human race. Like, for some reason, we just think we're smarter than nature. We're like Bill Gates. We just think that we know it all, and we can make things better than nature can. And I'm like, you're going to put all this work and time into making this synthetic meat when we can just let a cow out here and eat some fucking grass and have it does it all. It has been evolving for billions of fucking years.
And you can sustainably have
and
cattle.
We have been eating, that's another thing, we've been eating this shit since the beginning of time. Like, we evolved around this stuff. Vegans are always having to fucking go on some kind of crazy, like, having all these crazy medical problems because we were designed to eat meat.
Yeah, meat and taters, baby.
I mean, that's one of the reasons we have a big-ass fucking brain is because we eat meat. Because guess what? That is the most nutrient-dense thing on the planet. That is it. Meat. That's what everything, like when I'm feeding my chickens, I throw some stuff in there. I throw grain, sweet stuff, and meat out there. The first thing they eat is the meat. They're going crazy over it because they want that protein.
That's the good shit.
And when I eat something, that's the centerpiece. That's it. Like, it's the meat.
Big old cheeseburger, or meatloaf, or steak.
And I will say this. Some of the smartest people I've listened to have made a good point in the sense that you can't argue against eating less meat.
Because we probably do overconsume meat.
We probably do.
I know I do, dog.
If you go to any other country in the world, if you go back hundreds of years, like I'll give you a good example. When I eat at the Amish's house, you know what we eat? It's like a small serving of meat. We eat potatoes, corn, bread, noodles, and butter, and there's like a little piece of meat on the plate. I'm like, it's just carbs.
Fuel.
And I'm like, this is how people used to eat. Because we didn't. The thing is beef really didn't take off till the turn of the century. Because a cow is such a large animal, you couldn't store that much meat. Before we
didn't have refrigerators. We had cellars.
You wouldn't and to salt and cure an entire cow, that was a fucking job. Mostly cattle up until this point have mostly been dairy animals. That's kind of where that beef is really a pretty new thing. Most people were eating pork and chicken.
I fucking love it.
And what, beef? Yeah, it's fucking top of the line, dog.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't get no better.
Oh man.
Now, granted, I ain't saying that people didn't eat beef back in those days, but it was like a special occasion, probably. It was like, the old milk cows are getting old, and we gotta get everybody together, and we're gonna eat this big fucking cow.
Hell yeah.
And we're gonna cure some of it. But I will say that the argument, as far as like we might need to eat less meat, that probably makes sense. But what that tells me is we might need to eat less meat, which means that we need to raise that meat more sustainably. In the sense we need to utilize the rangeland and the pasture that we have to produce. Because, granted, you might not be... You could take all the pasture land right now and you treat it the right way and you might raise less head that are not as big, not as fat.
More natural.
More natural, and there'll be less beef, But if we stop eating less beef, that's a perfect system to me. If we're all eating grass-fed beef.
And grass-fed beef is good.
If it's raised right, yes.
And I know you like graining.
I'm gonna tell you right now, there ain't nothing better than a big ass fat grain-fed steak. But
I'm not gonna disagree, but I do like a grass-fed cheeseburger, man.
The thing about grass-fed, that has such a huge. There is such a misconception with grass-fed beef because most people do not raise them right. They do not keep them on grass long enough. They do not slaughter them at the right way. They don't let them get fat enough. That's why everybody's like, grass-fed beef is lean.
And ain't got enough fat on it.
You had that cow. People are stuck in this mindset that we need to finish in 18 to 24 months. And I'm like, no. If you raise this steer on grass, it's going to take longer because you're not putting as much energy into that animal.
And on top of that, you should go by the animal, not the calendar. It's just like if you was raising a kid, you go by the kid, not like.
Well, see, and that's where they put us farmers in a bad spot. Is because we're thinking, we're stretched so thin with profit. We're like, if I can finish this cow in 18 months and turn it around and put more cattle on it, then I can make more money. Especially when you get your back up against the wall and you're about to lose your farm. Like, those kind of decisions are easy to make when you are literally going to lose your livelihood. That's what a lot of people blame farmers, and I'm like, we're only doing what you all fucking want us to do.
Almost make you do.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't have much of a choice if you want to survive.
I don't know, and see, that's another discussion we need to have is where the money goes. Because when I buy something at the store, how much of that money ends up with the farmer, and how much of it goes to Kroger and fucking
I feel like I remember reading something about 14%.
That's pretty fucking low. That's not much. We did a lot of the work.
Yeah, and see what sucks is I remember having that stat on the first episode, but that was I used another computer on that one.
Well, all I'm trying to get at is that I agree that we aren't doing this right. I will agree when people come at me with this stuff. I do agree that the system that we have really just is not the best system. We shouldn't be taking these